Tuesday, September 21st, 2021, Parkland School District workshop. And I will turn it over to Dr. Madsen.
Thank you, Mr. Hine. Good evening, everyone. This evening for workshop, we have two items. Our first item for this evening, we're going to review and take you through the Kratzer Elementary School design and furniture addition that we have planned. We have Rob from Alvin H. Booth's with us, Jim and Shannon from KCBA Architects, and they're going to kind of take us through conceptual design of this project, and we'll certainly get into more detail later on during our board retreat for capital projects, but right now we wanted to give you a preview of where everything stands. So I'm not sure who's going first in this group, but I'll turn it over to the team.
Yeah?
Yep.
I'm Jim Kiefer from KCBA Architects. Just going to give a brief intro here and then turn it over to the rest of the team. We've been working on the Kratzer addition renovation project since the beginning of the summer, and the plan is to have the project finished, documented by the end of the year, and out to bid, so construction would commence in the spring. We're pretty far along with the design. We have some really nice images to show you tonight and to give you an update on the schedule and the budget for the project. So I'm going to turn it over to Shannon, and she's going to walk you through some images.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm, as Jim said, Shannon Doherty. I'm one of the design team members. And I'm going to walk you through kind of the overall plans, the addition plans, and we also have some images of the exterior and the interior of the project. So first we have the site plan. As you can see here, the addition will be on the north side of the existing building. It's about 18,000 square feet and also includes a new courtyard in addition to the courtyard that is already existing. This project also includes about 3,000 square feet of interior renovations to the existing school to provide enough room for the school to grow. The addition and renovations will allow the school to add 1 classroom per grade level. And also on the site plan, you can see that the northern baseball field will move just a little bit so that we can fit the addition and also relocate the existing playground. Also from this plan, you can see that the current bus loop and parent drop-off area will not be disturbed at all. So this is their existing floor plan of Kratzer Elementary. The blue spaces are the general classrooms. Special education spaces are in yellow. These specialty spaces, such as the gym, cafeteria, are in purple, administration in green, and then storage mechanical rooms are in gray. So with the existing floor plan, as I mentioned, there's about 3,000 square feet of renovation. So one of the big areas we are doing the media center will be moving to the new addition, and we will be converting that space into classrooms and other specialty spaces. The kind of far left area will become the instrumental music room that will just be moving across the hallway. The 2 classrooms top of the plan will be given toilet rooms so that they can become a kindergarten classroom and a first grade classroom. And then that kind of small area near the north of the top of the plan is going to become a small group instruction room along with a collaboration zone. So as you can see here, this is your new floor plan just for the existing building. So as I mentioned before, you can see there's 2 toilet rooms added into those classrooms. The instrumental music room has moved. The media center, a corridor has actually been added between where the media center was to have better circulation from the front door over to the other, what is now the existing 5th grade wing. And this also allows us to put in a classroom that can be grouped with those other ones, along with some special education classrooms in that area. And then again, that small area in the north becomes an SGI and a small collaboration zone. There's also another similar collaboration zone where the existing media center was. So as you can see, each kind of grouping of classrooms has their own collaboration space. So this is the new floor plan with the addition added on. So as you can see, there are 9 classrooms. One of them will be designated as a special education classroom. And then that small kind of yellow bar is a small group instruction room that the administration can use for whatever additional space they would need. That large purple square is the new media center, along with an office and the relocated TV studio. Just north of the media center is an open commons space, which is very similar to the collaboration zones that we're showing in the middle of the other classrooms during those interior renovations. You can also see kind of just a little bit of the outline of the courtyard, and on the next slide I'll zoom in so we can see a little bit better of the addition. So there's a zoomed in version of the addition. Again, classrooms, they'll be very similar to what is already at the existing school. Casework on both walls, a teaching wall, an additional whiteboard on the back wall. And then the courtyard will be turf for maintenance. And we are also proposing kind of these small bench areas. Let's see if I can. Bench areas right near the entrance to the courtyard, which can be used for small groups to gather outside when it is a nice day. We've met with the teachers and the staff at Kratzer, and the librarian, was really like the idea of being able to have a small group to read outside with. And then the north area of the courtyard is actually a raised platform that will be covered with sunshades so students can have small performances and other activities out there. Something else on this courtyard is we're proposing stamped concrete, and they're the little black marks on the courtyard plan, and they're actually animal footprints, and they're based on the actual gaits of the animals, so the students can learn about these different animals while they're outside and how they move, and maybe go back to the classroom and research them a little bit more. Within the media center, we have 3 zones. The far left zone is the learning classroom space. So we'll have a whiteboard and a projector for teaching. That middle space is the STEM zone. So there's specialty tables there that will hold all the STEM equipment. And then the far right is the stacks area, along with some reading space along. In the commons space, you can see that there's other movable furniture and some storage in that area for additional STEM materials or anything else that they need to store. So now we're going to move on to some exterior and then interior views of the building. So this is the exterior of the building from the bus loop. As you can see, the addition is in the back. That 2-story space that you see with the sloped roof is the media center, more specifically the STEM area. And this is the view from the other side, so you're seeing kind of that classroom bar. This is a closer up view of the media center, again into the STEM area. So the exterior materials on the building will be brick and metal panel. Here we have a vertical metal panel at the 2-story space with the sloped roof, and then gray brick along the bottom, and the brick to match the existing on either side. And then on this elevation, you can see that there's metal panel above the windows. And you can also tell that there's a little bit different of a brick in between the 2 windows in the classrooms. It's a very similar brick to the existing, but we really wanted to use that on this facade and the other facade to break up the monotony of the windows. Since there are so many windows and it is such a long facade, you can see it a little bit better in this image. So the existing brick goes up to the bottom of the windows, and then you have the similar brick in between, and again, the metal panel above the windows. Again, another view just from the existing hard surface play area. And then this is a view of the courtyard. As I mentioned before, you can see the small bench areas where kids and students can gather, and the platform in the background with the sunshades above it for small performances or group projects. You can also see we suggested some planter boxes for kids, you know, to learn about the plant cycle and anything like that. That was something that was mentioned to us multiple times with a lot of the science teachers at the school. And you can also see our stamped concrete idea. The one closest to us is a T-Rex footprint. This is the interior of the media center, kind of standing near the back of the classroom. So you can see we have a whiteboard on that wall. And then the media center, we're actually showing carpet in this area, and then this next image will show in the STEM area we usually have a harder floor, just because it's a little bit messier, it's easier to clean up than all the dust or anything that would be produced from any type of STEM projects. And this would be, again, this two-story space with linear metal ceiling. And this is the common space in the addition. So as you can see, that movable furniture again, there is a whiteboard on that wall that's to the left. You can also see down the corridor we have some spaces with benches, which again can provide a space for a small group of students to get together for collaboration, as well as storage in the back of the image for any type of projects, any type of supplies that they would need for that area. And then these are the collaboration zones that we were showing in the existing building. So they're the very small pockets that we are taking out some of the existing rooms that are there, since they are now being redistributed to the addition, so we have some extra space. So we wanted to provide these collaboration zones for the other grades that are in the building. So you can see we'll be matching most of the existing materials that are in the existing building, while also accenting kind of that corner zone. And you know, kids and students can come out one-on-one and use that space, or they can come out as a small group. Now I'm going to turn it over to Rob to go over budget and schedule.
Thanks, Shannon. Okay, good evening, everyone. So today we'll talk about the budget for the Kratzer project. If you recall from the last time we presented, we were at the schematic design phase. So we had a schematic design budget, a construction cost of $7.7 million, which translated to a total cost of $10.7 million. Today we're going to talk about the design development phase, because those drawings were completed by KCBA at the end of July. So now we actually have real documents. We're no longer talking concepts. We're talking actual drawings, complete, full design or much further design, feedback from the Conservation District, some civil design. So this estimate was based on a real set of drawings. And you can see the construction cost is now, for the building alone, or I should say building and site, about 8.4 million. We have 10% construction contingency. We have our soft costs, which produces a total project cost of $11.9 million. Going forward, at the end of the year, as Jim said, we'll have our construction documents, and then we will put our final estimate before we go out to bid. So this next slide is just a cover. This is the executive summary of our design development estimate. As you heard, this will at the end of the day give 9+ classrooms, the TV studio, commons area, media center, and renovation to the existing library. Much like the other projects that we've done, we have the same approach. We're going to break the project up into multiple bid packages. That's what the BP stands for on my breakdown. So we'll have multiple bid packages. We're going to have the same construction management team from our end, and we're going to be working with the same design team. So again, there's a lot of familiarity and good working relationships between us and obviously with Parkland. This project will be phased, so we're going to start first with a new addition out the back, and then once that's complete, we'll transition to the inside and renovate the existing library. In this bid pack, in this overall total number here, you see the building itself in light blue there is 6.8 million. That's just for the building itself. The site work portion of this project is about 1.1 million. On top of both of those numbers, we'll put our design/bidding contingency, and that's how we get the construction cost subtotal of 8.3 million. On the right side of the page, you'll see the soft costs. Okay, so we have the soft costs, which include our fees and staffing, permit fees, legal fees, accounting fees, financing fees. That's all built into the soft costs. We have a line item up there for FF&E and technology. On this particular estimate, we've got a 4%, we call it a COVID uncertainty built into that soft cost for whatever may or may not come our way between now and the time we start construction. And if you add those soft costs to the building subtotal, that's how we come up with a total project cost of 11.9 million. And the final, well, this slide here is our schedule. So we are right, we're right above the line that says fall retreat prior to going out to bid. So far we've been hitting our milestones. The next big step here is really in November to the end of the year. We're going to be working with KCBA. We'll get the drawings. We'll do our constructability review, like part of our normal process. And then we'll work on our project manual, work on the bid documents, and then we plan to actually go out to bid right as soon as we come back from the holiday. So in January, we want to go out to bid. We'll be advertising in December, so that come January, we're ready to go. We have identified dates when we want to have our pre-bid and our site visits. We're anticipating taking bids at the end of January and coming to you in February, or I should say March. February would be B&G, but coming to the board in March, ultimately for approval to award the project. There's one thing there that's critical, and it's in red, which is the NPDES permit. That's our land development. That's very, obviously everybody's backlogged and all these agencies everything's taking longer than normal. So we want to make sure we get that permit sometime in March, April even. That could work, because what our schedule shows is if we get an award, if the board approves the bids in March, we'd like to start in April, start awarding contracts right away, March, April, start the procurement process. If the opportunity exists to get out there and start putting up some erosion control and our site fencing, so that come summertime, we're ready to go full steam, which is what we've been doing at these, at our other projects. That's what we would like to do. So, assuming everything falls into place, we would officially start in the summer of 22 and wrap that up the summer of 23. And the last slide I have here, and this looks a whole lot better on the computer, but this is a 3D. We've done a site logistics plan in 3D, and one day we'll show it. But it's interactive, and it's just our first pass at how we think we're going to organize and stage the site with, obviously keeping separation between construction and an occupied school, how we're going to access the site, where we're going to stage our trailers, where the topsoil stockpile is going to be, where contractor parking is going to be. So we've got a pretty good plan working with our team and the design team, how we're going to separate ourselves from an occupied school. So hopefully you don't really know that we're there. So that concludes our portion. If there are any questions.
I have one question. Somebody else.
Okay, good, Carol. You can go first.
Rob,
Yes, Carol.
what type of costs are included in that 4% COVID contingency or
Well,
uncertainty? What type
uncertainty.
of cost would be in there?
So in the budget, I'm anticipating that this budget is, without shooting myself in the foot, pretty accurate. I mean, we're accounting for what we know now. I've already included materials that have gone up and what we're seeing currently on other jobs that we're building. So I feel like we're good. What's included in that 4%
Right.
is the stuff we don't know yet, if something gets crazy between now and then. But right now,
Would it be materials?
yeah,
Would it be
mostly
labor?
materials. Mostly materials.
Materials.
Mostly materials. Mhm.
So why wouldn't that be included in the contingency? Why would it be in the soft costs?
Well, I think it's worth separating. I mean, I could have made the construction contingency 14%, but I wanted to call out that there was something just unique due to COVID. Does that answer your question?
We think so.
Usually the contingency is always in the soft costs.
Okay.
So that reminds me, just like the other projects, just like at Veterans and Schnecksville, we have allowances built in to the construction numbers. So if you can see on your printouts, I don't know if I can see it. Go back a slide. Oh, it's the very bottom line underneath the yellow. So in our construction costs of 8.3 million, we're carrying 307,000 of allowances for some unknowns that we know that we're going to face.
Okay.
But above and beyond, I sort of want to make sure that we're all covered just in case something crazy doesn't happen between now and then.
But it would mainly be materials costs.
That's pretty much what we're seeing, materials.
All right. Thank you.
Materials.
A couple questions, and I'm going to direct this, I think, to Dr. Troutman, because I don't think Mark has that answer, being new. How many students we're building this new building or this new addition primarily for Ridge Farms?
No.
Okay. So my question is, how many students, I know I heard the number a while back, but I've also heard it since then, and it's changed dramatically. Are we projecting to get out of Ridge Farms for the new addition?
Well, I don't have that. And again, remember what I've been saying about the Kratzer area over the last 3 years. Kratzer has been growing and we don't have a Ridge Farms. Kratzer 3 years ago was in the 440s. Kratzer today is in the 480s. Low 490s at times, in and outs that are starting here at the beginning of school. That building has been growing because it's at an area where the houses are affordable. It's an older community. Older people are moving out. Younger families are moving in. So we've been seeing that continual growth. As for Ridge, whenever that gets started, we're looking at probably 23, 24 now. The estimate is, again, when we see the numbers that I get, they go K to 12. So, the spattering may be over 12 grades, you may end up with, 120 students, a growth in that from that area. But again, it's, remember, that's a phased process. So it's always going to be phased in. So as you're moving kids through, someone's phasing in and taking their place. So it kind of always balances. If you recall, the Ravenel Farms development down off of Shantz Road was that way. They were in 5 different phases, or 6 phases actually. So by the time the 6th phase went, all those kids in the elementary school that were here in kindergarten, first, they were even gone. They were in the middle school already. Some of them were in the high school. So that constant roll of phases, when you see that number, it's probably going to be a static number. Maybe we'll grow 120, 150 kids. But the reality is that's over 12 grade levels.
Correct. I agree.
And you're always going to get a pocket where, you get 25 second graders for no reason. Everybody's averaging 8, 10, they get 25. It's just the nature of growth.
If we did nothing, okay, what's the capacity of Kratzer?
If we did nothing right now, I think it's right around 500.
So you're 10 shy, is what
We're getting there right now. We're pushing it right now.
All right. So at 120 kids from Ridge Farms, which is a 10-year project, and they haven't put a shovel in the ground yet, because it's not been a totally approved project.
Correct.
At 120 kids, 5 levels, K to 5.
You're adding space for about another 125, 130 students.
So I guess in my mind, I'm have to really rethink this. We're going to spend $11 million and have a project done in 2023, when Ridge Farms won't even be probably started, but we'll be ready to take the kids. We're going to spend $12 million of taxpayer funding for 120 kids K to 12. So I just want to be
Correct.
clear.
I would think the elementary would be in that 40 to 60 range, but your
Right, I have
whole
50,
environment
I have
would
50,
be,
right. It's,
in that range. So, you're going to be in the 540 range, which is like a Parkway Manor, which this building will be comparable to the size of a Parkway Manor, which has 430, 440 right now.
I don't disagree, Rob. I guess I have to wrap my head around spending $11 million for a few new classrooms for 50 or 60 kids. When they can, like you said, they're going to continue to grow. When this is a 10-year project, we're guessing 120 kids. We don't know.
Right.
Okay, it's going to be some 55 and over. We just don't know what it's going to be.
Well, there's a lot of apartments.
I have a hard time anymore getting my head wrapped around $12 million or $11 million for 120 kids when we could look at other schools who are don't have that capacity. I'm sorry, they have the capacity, they're not up to it, i.e. Kernsville and some others, and where this district has never hesitated to redistrict a few blocks and could do that. So I just,
Well, I hear what you're saying, David, but you're talking about 50, 60 kids every year that are going to be in there, and they're going to continually, constantly be rolling. So you're not taking care of 50 or 60 kids, you're taking care of 50 or 60 kids every year for the next 10 years. So in a sense, you're taking care of 600 kids who are going to go through that process in that building, because every year you're picking up another 15 or so, 10 or 15 kindergartners. That's that new group of kindergarten kids that have that growth in it, so they're going through. Where if we redistrict them, we would have a difficult time. We struggle with populations at Parkway Manor right now. That's our largest school, and continues to be a hub of other areas that could grow, AKA right out the street here. That's Parkway Manor. If that flies, you're talking about Parkway Manor being an area that we're going to have to address. The areas that we redistricted in 2015, we prepared for this in 2015. Not so much Ridge, but we prepared for Kernsville. And Kernsville, the development behind Route 100 has started. I remember that was in litigation for 6 years. So in 15, we thought we were going to get that in 17. Well, we're going to get that next year in 22, and it's going to start very quickly. There's going to be 270 apartments in there by this time next year. And then the single-family homes are going to start, and they are going to fly, and they're going to sell because the single-family homes sell in Parkland very, very rapidly. So you're going to see Kernsville growing at a much faster clip. They're receiving students from the townhomes that are being built around St. Joe's the Worker area in there. That's constant. There's more that are going to go up in that area, all Kernsville. So there's been a plan for Kernsville to grow. Yes, it's been slower than what we anticipated, but only because of stuff we had no control over. And I'm really happy that we didn't, that it sat in litigation for a while. I mean, that makes me feel good that we had 6 years where we weren't bursting at the seams yet another building where we'd have to make decisions.
Thanks, Rob. So. Rob, I got a question for you, if I may. I know we're trying to get this done by the completion date would be 2023. Prices for lumber are actually coming down, finally. If you look at the per linear foot of lumber, they're down substantially from where they were at its peak.
Right.
And I'm sure a lot of this school is not going to be lumber. It's going to be brick, mortar, and
Steel.
Iron. Is there a benefit to not necessarily be on this timeline, but extend it a little bit and see what does happen in the world marketplace for iron, for steel, and lumber coming down, because we know we're not going to have even 120 kids or 50 kids going into the elementary school in 2023 when Ridge Farms isn't even going to be started.
Yeah, these are talks we have often, in the industry. You mentioned steel, iron, steel. Steel, for one, right now is through the roof. It's specifically bar joists, metal decking. That stuff is up well over 100%. And from all the talks in the industry and all the trade publications and contacts, that's not coming down for several years is what we're hearing. The same is true with metal studs. I mean, metal studs are up over 100%. Things hardly come down. Yes, wood is coming down for sure, but generally products are not coming down in price. So I don't see.
I'm not sure I agree. I know, I just did a fire escape. It's double from what it was 4 years ago. Double. So.
And the other thing that we're experiencing, and maybe everyone else is too with some of your projects, it's the things that you don't normally ever have problems with that are becoming problematic. You know, concrete was never a problem, but now there's a shortage with drivers, labor shortage, so you can't get concrete as frequently as you would. Insulation, there's a chemical in the insulation that was made in a plant in Texas. Well, Texas had the freeze, or New Orleans, or somewhere. There's a chemical somewhere in all these products that is creating a shortage. So we're really dealing with, in addition to the pricing, timing too. So that's just something that we're aware of. And we have to be cognizant of that. It's not like it used to be a couple of years ago.
Thanks.
Sure.
Mr. Foos?
I have a question for Rod, piggybacking off of a question my colleague asked. I guess I'm listening and hearing to what everything is being said so far tonight. And I guess my question is, you know, when we look at these apartment complexes, they're very transient. As far as like the other apartment buildings around here, like what was how has historically, I guess I'm trying to ask, how historically has the retention been for Parkland students year by year at these apartment complexes?
Retention, did you ask?
Retention, yeah.
You know, we have transiency more than I've ever had in my career here in Parkland. You know, that's really been a norm over the last, I would say, 5 to 6 years. We've become transient. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And a lot of it is apartments, you know, a lot of it is, you know, what we call multiple occupancy families, things like that. So we are more transient than we were. I wouldn't have an answer for you, to be honest, Patrick, how many of them are exactly from apartments and things like that. But I'm sure it plays a role. It plays a factor in it. Yeah, we didn't have this many apartments in years past.
So I guess then just to further ask, if that's the case, the numbers you provided us, could they be less or more depending upon whether or not a family of 3 or 4 comes into an apartment and they move out and it's a single person that comes in?
When you work with a projection company, it is that. It's a projection, and each different type of facility is given a number, a percentage of, or number of potential recipients from that family, from that household. So you have apartments that they may average 1 kid. They may say a single family home might be 2 kids. Townhome might be 1 kid, 1.5 kids. So it's all done on that. So there's no exact science to say, well, you know, there's 65 apartments, so you're going to get 75 kids. No, there's no exact science to it, but they'll base it on a number. I think I showed you that last year at our retreat, the number and how that number is factored in to all that new apartments and things like that.
Thank you so much.
I don't have it with me right now.
Thank you for that, and the planning that has gone on, you know, for the future of, you know, knowing that Ridge Farms is coming in, and that timeline is delayed. So yes, some of that comes in, but to your point, this is a now need.
It is a now need.
My wife teaches there. I know that.
It's tight.
There's 4 kindergarten classes right now. A couple of years ago, there was 2. All the other grades are bursting at the seams. The special ed areas and the, you know, enrichment areas and stuff like that. They're putting kids in any place they can find a spare spot. So the need is there today, as well as for what's going to come down the road.
Agree.
So I do appreciate that. I do have one question, maybe for Rob. As far as, you know, we did it last time at Kratzer, and now what we're doing at Schneider with the need for the interior renovation of some of the existing spaces. Do you have an estimate of the time when that would start? I can't imagine that it would be enough time to do it over a summer. So is there going to be some overlap of when the kids are in school, when you start tearing down that existing media center to put it in the classrooms?
In an ideal world, that would happen the following summer.
Okay.
We wouldn't want to do that
Okay.
while class is in session. So that's what we're going to build a schedule around.
So that would be the summer of '23, or
The summer, yeah, the summer of
so
23.
after the kids are out, then, okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions from anybody? Thank you all very much for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. Very thorough as usual.
I'd like to thank the team as well. I know that one of the things that's really important in this project, and they've taken really great care of the fact that there's construction that's going to happen during the school year, and what they've done in the Schnecksville project, and taking care of that and working with our principal and the staff to make sure that that's as seamless as possible. So, and I know that Dr. Troutman has done a fantastic job with looking at the numbers, enrollment, not just now, but in the past and moving forward to the future. And just a note, I was just at Kratzer the other day, and to Mr. Hines' point of even small group, the building's different need now than maybe when it was built. So some of those small group instruction rooms are really bursting at the seams. So not only is this looking forward, but there's definitely immediate need now. So I want to thank you for that as well. So we're gonna transition to our comprehensive plan for 2022-2025. Dr. Troutman?
Thanks, Dr. Madsen, and good evening, everyone. I didn't get a chance to say good evening. Just to give you a little walk down kind of memory lane, about last year at this time, we were sitting in the building back, and I was going through with Kelly a timeline for our comprehensive planning, which spanned the entire year from September of last year all the way up till where we're coming to you tonight. I just, want to introduce it as, this is a requirement for the state. It gives us the ability to look at our strengths and really focus on our weaknesses. And I think you'll see Kelly has done a phenomenal job with the cabinet and the building principals, members of the community, to help us come and really identify the areas that we need some work. And, we're constantly in continuous improvement. This document, I think, will show you that we are in continuous improvement. It's what we feel is necessary to move the district forward. I can't thank Kelly enough. She took a lot off my plate doing this. I'm really, really thankful to her, and I want to publicly say how happy I am and thrilled at the document, how it came out today, and I think you'll be excited about it as well. So I'll turn it over to Kelly.
Tall people. Let me put this down a little bit. It's okay, I'm going to leave my mask off. I always sound so muffled. Thank you. I'm excited to be here to present this. And while I did spearhead the comprehensive plan this year, the work was done by all of us. We really collaborated throughout the year in the various steps as we went through this comprehensive plan process. So as I said, it's from 2022 to 2025. So the plan doesn't actually start this school year. It will start next school year. And the mission statement, we decided that it didn't need revision. So the mission statement you're looking at, educate and empower each learner to be a meaningful contributor to a dynamic global society through the collaborative efforts of students, staff, parents, and the Parkland community, is the same mission statement that we had in our last comprehensive plan. Group felt like it still fit, still our mission, so that has not changed, along with our vision statement, which is that educating for success and inspiring excellence. As you know, that's posted all over our district. It's something that is our tagline that we use all the time. So those two things did not change from our previous comprehensive plan. The educational values, there was something similar in our other comprehensive plan, but in this plan, the difference was they broke it down by the different stakeholders, the different groups. So you'll see educational values for students, for staff, for community, and you'll see some of the same shared values. That's the way they were called last time, shared values, educational values. So like all students and staff have the right to a safe learning environment. You're going to see that in the student and the staff educational values. So you'll see some repeats on these slides, and I'm not going to read through every one, but these are the things that matter to us, and they're grouped by the students and then by the staff, and you'll see the staff, smaller font, there's a lot on there, a lot of them tied into the staff, some having to do with curriculum, some having to do with effective instruction, safe and positive school environment, with character education, so lots there for the staff. There's an administration, the educational values for the administration, and again, you'll see some of the same repeats. And then for the parents and the community, which again have some of the same values that we had in the other categories. So that's kind of the beginning part of the comp plan to discuss your mission, your vision, and those educational values. And then we got into answering all kinds of questions and really digging deep to find out what are Parkland's strengths and where do we fall short, or where do we want to focus some energy for this next comp plan. That's the whole purpose of it, is to go through and look at every area, everything that we do, and pull out what are we doing well and where do we need to do some work. So some of our strengths, we identified a lot of them. We have a lot of collaboration across our district. We have a lot of professional development that we set up on various levels. We are data-driven, we are student-driven, but we use the data to help us move those students and to grow them. So those are all positives. We also have a process in place for teachers to write their student learning objective, to create action plans for their growth, and it's personalized, and they get to seek out the PD they need. We have fantastic programs at our high school, Project Lead the Way. We have the engineering, computer science, biomedical. We have all of the Project Lead the Way pathways, and that's a real plus for our district. And our program with special needs, they're in their neighborhood schools, and they're in the regular education setting to the maximum extent. Also our career fair, job fair, our fitnessgram, and what we do in our health and phys ed classrooms, our bullying programs, our DARE, our local civics assessment is really strong, and we have standards-based instruction and assessment, along with our community partners, our title, our technology program, our guidance plan, and English language arts is just strong across our district. Our growth is strong, our data is strong. So as you can see, those were a lot of our strengths. And then we went to talk about the challenges. And math proficiency, math achievement definitely rose to the top as one of the strongest areas of need. When we look at our data historically, it is definitely math. With COVID and having the year like we had last year, we definitely see less growth in math than we did in English language arts. And that's to be expected. Math is very sequential. And if they have some gaps in there and miss some concepts, we have to go back and teach that. So math is definitely an area, and I'll get into each one of these a little bit more. Lack of a tiered intervention program for math for elementary grades. Our focus in elementary, as you know, is reading by grade 3, and that's what we've been focused on, but we need to focus on that math as well. They need to have those foundational skills. And so the students that are struggling in math, that's who need the tiered intervention. And so we're going to be investigating and looking for that. Support for new students who come into our district, and support for all of our students who need support. And again, you're going to see more about that as I go through this presentation. Lack of authentic assessment and equitable grading practices. And this is work in progress. Our elementary grades have done some work around standards-based grading and making sure that the grades we give are reflective of what the student knows in relation to the standards. For instance, not giving a 0 because it's late, that doesn't show what they know about whatever the concept was, right? It just makes their grade go down really low. So looking at those things, but looking at them at the secondary level too, and learning. So you'll see what that goal is about. And then we have great parental involvement, but we always feel like we can do a little bit more. So increase parental involvement and communication and resources. So after we identified those needs, then we got to building the plan. And the next couple slides, I'm not going to read everything on these slides to you, but I'm going to go over what the priority statement is for each of these needs, and then you'll see that we kind of broke it down by 3 years, what we have a target for each year, and then what you don't have in front of you, which is even more detail, is there's an action plan, and that action plan also has a professional development plan that goes with it, and that will all be in the boardroom or in the board's ad center for review over the next month if you want to see the entire plan. I'm sure it'll probably also be posted. So math is, like I said, the biggest need that we've found. And so our priority statement is that research-based interventions support students' academic growth. Putting systems in place for math, K-12, and using data to drive instruction will increase learning and therefore increase academic proficiency in the area of mathematics. Like I said, we have some targets, and then it goes even deeper with the action plans. Okay, we want to get some new resources. We want to be doing some walkthroughs, some common assessments, being able to really look at that data. And then there's also a math collaboration goal where we want the math teachers, the math department at the high school, middle school, talking with each other, sharing best practices, collaborating K to 12 to see where is math going. And by the end of the 24-25 year, we have more collaboration, more common assessments. The teachers are differentiating instruction. We've just improved our instructional strategies. So our anticipated outcome is that we have standards-aligned common assessments. We understand the curriculum through PD. There's common planning data reviews. There's data-driven decision-making, collaboration among math teams, structured intervention opportunities, and increased student achievement is the bottom line. Our next area of need that I mentioned earlier is that all Parkland students, with a focus on those new students who are coming to Parkland for the first time, that they're able to find success and feel a part of our school community, so our inclusion and belonging. Couple targets to develop welcoming committees, to really dive into those welcoming committees and gather data to see how that's going, and assist those new students with making connections and building relationships. And then the supportive school climate is not just for new students. The welcoming club would be for those new students coming, but the supportive school and climate would be for all of our schools. And to implement a plan where we identify and support students who need that support, whether it's mental health support, whether it's academic support, social emotional support, whatever support they may need to be successful. The goal is that we're supporting all of our students to be successful. And then a student support, like I just talked about, okay? Mental health is mentioned in there academically. But the outcome is to ensure all students in Parkland feel part of our community. Teacher-student relationships are positive, and our systems are in place to support students who are in need of social or emotional help. And I just want to say that I do feel like we do those things currently, but we're striving to get better, and we know with COVID and everything that everybody's dealt with over the past year and a half, that this is really important, and so we wanted it in our plan for the next 3 years. The third one is that assessment and grading piece that I mentioned, and the priority is that assessment is a key component of learning. Well-designed assessment methods provide valuable information about student learning. Equitable grading practices should focus on academic level of performance, exclude non-academic criteria, and be mathematically sound. So it's more really focused on our secondary schools as we are looking to provide our teachers with professional development, with learning what is equitable grading practices, what does that look like in a secondary classroom, how do we still prepare students for college while providing some equitable grading. And really what we want to do over the 3 years is for teachers to just dive in and learn, for it to grow organically, and for our teachers to be a big part of that. So you'll see that the goals are, it's not like we're looking to change drastically, but we're looking to shift our thoughts on grading here and move into making sure our staff understand that. Common assessments, we do have some common assessments, but looking to really take a close eye at them and grow it so that we have more doing the common assessment where they can discuss the data, talk about it, and that authentic assessment piece is important. So we're not looking for a common multiple choice assessment, but an assessment where the student can actually apply what they're learning, and then teachers can get together and say, here's how my students did, here's some of the things they did, what did yours do, and they kind of learn from each other, and they have a common rubric to grade and can discuss those things. So an area that we did some work on, but we're looking to really go deeper. And then our outcome for this is grading focused on academic level of performance that's equitable, and authentic common assessments in place that allows teams to collaborate. And then the last one is our parent communication, which Nicole Magala had a lot to do with this one. And the priority is transparent and clear parent communication is necessary to work with our parents as partners for student success. So we want to look at the communication process we have in place and see how we can maybe make it even better. Publish a calendar with the events so that parents know at one spot, and we do that to some extent, but really kind of pulling it together, what's going on, where it is, if there's links to live events, everything's kind of there for them. And then offering some online opportunities too. We know that was one of the good things in COVID. It was successful for us to offer some things virtually. It was more convenient for some parents, more attended. So being able to offer both and have parents coming in and also offering things virtually. And then the standard communication is working with our staff to make sure, getting surveys out to community, to hear back from them, to make sure we're hitting the mark, and just ensure that we have that standardized communication practices across all of our schools. So the outcome is communication procedures will be systematic and important events will be marketed and shared in various contexts. So I just did a lot of talking, but that's what our comp plan entails. You can see that right now we're presenting this to you. It's going to sit in our ad center for the next month, and then we'll be coming back to you in October for approval of our comp plan, and we'll be sending it off to the state then in November, which is the original due date the state had given us. They gave extensions due to COVID, but we chose to stick to the original timeline when we do comp plan, and so we made the mark, and here we are. Any questions?
I just have one. I think Mark can relate to this. Mark and I spent some time this afternoon up at L-Tri-C, and in part of our tour, there were certain areas of the building where the students could go for additional help in writing, English.
Yeah.
And one of the areas that we stuck our head in was the math, remediation of math, kids coming into the school for the first time who were weak, and specifically math. And they also pointed out that that's the largest area of student help that they need. The students need help. So it's good to see that that's also in this plan, because.
Thank you for sharing that. And I do not think we're alone in that. I think math, as you know, through all the COVID and all the time that we couldn't be in school, I think that's where we're going to need to fill those gaps and build that up. But I know we can do it.
I just want to highlight one thing, and then I want to make a statement on another. I think this is absolutely terrific. One highlight I'd like to say was the bullet point for educational values. A safe and positive school environment includes character education, good citizenship, resiliency, and a sense of responsibility. That's what we hope for as community members, parents, grandparents, to see our next generation of leaders, have and achieve and understand and grasp. The other part about it that I really like, and the topic you brought up was, about the assessments. I personally have a strong disliking towards learning for a test. I feel like the only way students could engage in learning the material is if they could relate to it and see a future where they need to use it and it's impactful to them. That's why I believe so much in both the formative and summative assessments. I believe, part of the communication with parents could be a lot of it based off of the formative versus the summative, because at least the parents then they could talk to the parents, the teachers, say, hey, this is what old Johnny boy is doing good, and this is where he's good, and this is where he may need a little help at, but he's doing a great job. So I really like it. It's pretty solid, and
awesome. Thank you.
It. Thank you.
And I think that authentic assessment piece is what we're going after. So a student that's not a good test taker, doesn't mean that they don't understand or know. There's just other ways maybe for them to show that.
But I am a strong advocate for authentic assessment, so thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Kelly, thank you very much again. Your work in here has been instrumental to the success of this, and thank you for the principals too. I know they put a lot of time in this and had some great conversations on truly what our strengths are, and then not being okay with that, and where are the areas that we can grow in, and put a realistic timetable together for us. So thank you. Mr. Hine, that concludes our workshop agenda.
Thank you very much. It is about 7:55. We will start the business meeting in 5 minutes at 8 o'clock.
but I'm not sure.
Where's the flag?
Behind the curtain over there, I think, but.
Pledge allegiance to the
Over here.
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I'd like to make a statement regarding public comment at tonight's September 21st, 2021 board meeting. I'll review the most relevant portions of board policies and regulations that govern public comment at board meetings. The applicable policies are policies 903 and 903.1. The applicable administrative regulations are set forth in 006 AR0. A full version of the policies and regulations are available for review on the district's website. The relevant portions of policy 903 are as follows. Public participation shall be permitted at the discretion of the presiding officer on a given issue. The board requires that public participants be district taxpayers or residents. All persons wishing to participate in a public board meeting shall register their intent with the board secretary in advance of the meeting, and on the day of the meeting, all persons wishing to participate shall register their intent on the form obtained at the registration table. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and must preface their comments by an announcement of their name and address. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes duration. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No participant may address or question board members individually. The presiding officer may interrupt or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Request any individual to leave the meeting when that person does not observe reasonable decorum, and call a recess or adjournment to another time when lack of public decorum interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting as to warrant such action. No placards or banners will be permitted within the meeting room without prior approval. The relevant portions of Administrative Regulation 006 AR0 are as follows. The opportunity to speak at a public board meeting is open to all individuals residing in the Parkland School District. All residents wishing to speak to board members, to the board, must complete the request to address the Board of School Directors form found at the sign-in table. The school board president will call those individuals that request to speak at the appropriate time. Each individual is limited to 3 minutes to address the school board. The relevant portions of policy 903.1 are as follows. Policy 903.1, use of electronic recording devices during board meetings. Recording devices such as cameras, cell phones, electronic tablets, tape recorders, or other similar recording devices are permitted at public board meetings under and pursuant to the following rules. Persons must notify the assistant superintendent of his or her intent to use a recording device prior to its use. An individual's right to record will be limited or forfeited if there is material interference with the ability of board members, administrators, school officials, school employees, and others to participate or observe during the public board meeting. Audio recording devices can be used from an individual's seat or from a location designated by the board president. Video recording devices can be used from locations designated by board president. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 3, approval of minutes. If I could have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 4, report of executive session. Ms. Frisbee?
We held an executive session after the committee meetings last Monday, September 13th.
Thank you very much. Number 5, acceptance of treasurer's report.
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Bold. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Fasciana. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 6, public comment on agenda items. Tonight, there are no comments on agenda items. They are all non-agenda items, which will be taken up later in the meeting. Moving on to reports, Academics, Arts, and Athletics Committee, Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you, Mr. Hine. Item 7.01, approval of service agreement from Sharp Ross Psych Ed Services LLC. The committee recommends that the board approve and authorize the board president to sign the attached service agreement from Sharp Ross Psych Ed Services LLC to provide contracted bilingual psychoeducational evaluation as needed for Parkland students. And I make a motion to approve.
Thank you. If I could have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
Item 7.02, approval of professional services agreements with Lehigh Valley Center for Independent Living. Act 66 of 2021 permits students that were enrolled during the 2020-2021 school year to repeat their grade level in an effort to make up for any lost educational opportunities due to the COVID-19 pandemic, thus necessitating an agreement between Lehigh Valley Center for Independent Living and Parkland School District to complete a specialized student transition assessment and subsequent person-centered plan for 2 students. The committee recommends that the board approve and authorize the board president to execute the attached agreements, and I motion to approve.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Roth. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 7.03, approval of agreement with the Center for Neuropsychology and Counseling, PC. The committee recommends that the board approve and authorize the board president to sign the attached agreement for evaluation services from the Center for Neuropsychology and Counseling, PC, to provide an independent educational evaluation for a Parkland student. I motion to approve.
Thank you. If I could have a second.
Second.
Mr. Bold, thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 7.04, withdraw, cancel, and rescind approval of agreement and approval of replacement agreement between ABA Support Services, LLC, and Parkland School District. The committee recommends that the agreement with ABA Support Services, LLC, approved by the board on August 17, 2021, be withdrawn, canceled, and rescinded, and in lieu thereof, the committee recommends that the board approve and authorize the board president to execute the attached replacement revised agreement with ABA Support Services, LLC, to provide special education services and staff training. The agreement period is for the 2021-2022 school year. I motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bold. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
And item 7.05, purchase of athletic equipment and supplies / winter sports 2021-2022. The committee recommends approval of the purchase of athletic equipment and supplies for winter sports for the 2021-2022 school year in the amount of $31,571.61. The items are listed there, and items will be purchased through CoStar's Cooperative Purchasing Program. I motion to approve.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Before we jump to number 8, I should have said this at the outset. All of these items that we're going through tonight, we have vetted as a board in our committee meetings and have had the chance to review and ask questions of the administration prior to tonight's meeting. And we have the opportunity tonight to ask additional questions if we have them. Just wanted to let you know that, in case you haven't been here before where I've made that announcement, we do understand and review all of these prior to tonight's meeting. We're not just going through and approving them blindly. So thank you. Number 8, Buildings and Ground Committee, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you. The committee's bringing 7 items forward for approval. 8.01, approval of change order. The committee recommends that the following change order be approved. Schnecksville Project 1, Eschbach Brothers LP, credit for unused contract allowance, deduct $2,024.23. And I make that motion.
Thank you. If I could have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Foos. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
8.02, approval of quotes from Toyota Lift Northeast. The committee recommends that the board approve and authorize the board president to execute the attached quote from Toyota Lift Northeast for the purchase of a 5,000-pound Dunson forklift for the total purchase price of $25,515.20. The forklift is listed on the Joint Purchasing Program co-stars, and I make that motion.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Ziegler. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 8.03, approval of invoice from Verizon Pennsylvania LLC. The committee recommends that the board approve the invoice from Verizon Pennsylvania LLC dated July 13th, 2021, in the amount of $25,901.49 for the balance of the actual construction costs for the relocation of 10 utility poles along Shantz Road. This payment is in accordance with the letter of agreement that from Verizon that was approved at the December 17th, 2019 board meeting. This purchase will be paid from Capital Projects Fund, and I make that motion.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 8.04, approval of quote from Tana Furniture for Schnecksville Elementary School. The committee recommends that the board approve and authorize the board president to execute the attached quote from Tana Furniture for the purchase of school furniture for the Schnecksville renovation and addition project for the total purchase price of $391,976.28. The furniture is listed on the Joint Purchasing Program co-stars. This purchase will be paid from the Capital Projects Fund, and I make that motion.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Foos. Any comments or questions?
One comment was pointed out to the committee that approximately 8% of this quote reflects in-house efforts to assemble and place the furniture at a savings to our taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 8.05, approval of quote from Tana Furniture for Parkland High School. The committee recommends that the board approve and authorize the board president to execute the attached quote from Tana Furniture for the purchase of partitions to be installed in the high school teachers' planning room for a total purchase price of $7,418.96. The furniture is listed on the Joint Purchasing Program co-stars, and I make that motion.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Fasciano. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 8.06, approval of proposal from Schneider Hoffman Associates Incorporated. The committee recommends that the board approve and authorize the board president to execute the attached proposal from Schneider Hoffman Associates for engineering services to design a new HVAC equipment that will replace the existing HVAC equipment at the Ironton Elementary School. The engineering fee for this service is $68,075, and I make that motion.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ziegler. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
8.07, approval of proposal from Alvin H. Butts Incorporated. The committee recommends the board approve and authorize the board president to execute the attached proposal from Alvin H. Butts Incorporated for the construction management services for the replacement of the existing HVAC equipment at the Ironton Elementary School. The construction management fee for this service is $37,175, and I make that motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
I have a comment. So we're paying for a construction management fee and we're paying for an engineering fee. Where's Dave Keppel? I don't. Can you, why do we need both? I understand engineering, but then why do we need a construction management fee on top of that, just so I'm clear? And Schneider doesn't do that in any of their stuff? All right, thanks, Dave.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
That concludes our report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Item number 9, Personnel and Finance Committee. Mrs. Roth?
Thank you, Mr. Hine. Item 9.01, personnel items. I will take retirements, resignations, items A through M. Request for FMLA, items A and B. Request for child rearing leave of absence, items A through D. Request for sabbatical leave of absence for professional development, item A. Employment of personnel are items A through X. And then approval of day-to-day substitute list for professionals, guest teachers, support staff, food services, school services, and transportation. And we have all seen the attachments there. And I make that motion as a whole.
Thank you. May I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
Mr. Hine, I am abstaining. To line item T, under employment of personnel.
Thank you.
Pursuant to Pennsylvania's Public Official and Employee Ethics Act, I hereby declare that I am required to abstain regarding the following issue motion, personnel items. My conflict reason for abstaining is as follows. My stepson is being recommended for employment within the Parkland School District as a part-time custodian. So I reflect and abstain on that item.
Thank you.
Okay, item 9.02, board policy. That is the 805.2 Operation School Security Personnel. That's a first reading for information only for everyone, so we have that in our packets. And item 9.03, approval of quote from Tana Furniture for Springhouse Middle School. The committee recommends that the board approve and authorize the board president to execute the attached quote from Tana Furniture for the purchase of school furniture for an outdoor classroom at Springhouse Middle School for the total purchase price of $5,519.74. The furniture is listed on the Joint Purchasing Program CoStars. This purchase will be funded from the ESSER funds, and I so move.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bold. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
And that concludes Personnel and Finance, Mr. Hine.
Thank you, Mrs. Roth. Moving on to number 10, Student Affairs. It is recommended that the board approve and authorize the board president to execute the attached settlement agreement and release of claims between the Parkland School District and the parents of JB for special education programming and related services. If I can have a motion.
So moved.
I'll make a second.
Thank you, Mr. Coos. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 11, 2021-2022 district goals. The administration recommends approval of the 2021-2022 district goals as presented by Dr. Rodney R. Troutman and Dr. Michelle Minotti at the August 17th, 2021 workshop meeting. And I make a motion, or if I can have a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Ziegler. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 12, the 2022 Pennsylvania School Boards Association slate of candidates. 12.01 PSBA officer elections. It is recommended that the board vote for the 2022 PSBA slate of candidates for the positions of President-elect. There are two choices, Sabrina Backer and David Scapp. Vice President, Allison Mathis, and East Zone Representative Edward Brown. If I can have a motion.
Mr. Hine, I would like to make a motion for the president-elect that we make a motion to vote for David Schapp of the Brentwood Borough School District.
Thank you, and the other two are unopposed.
Correct.
If I can have a second.
Second?
Any comments or questions?
Could I ask why? Why are you, I'm just curious. I'm asking Carol.
Okay.
Well, in discussing this with Mr. Hine and his involvement with PSBA, David Chapman, his involvement with PSBA at the state level.
Oh, that's fine.
If I can interject as well, there were also comments last night at the IU meeting, the board meeting, and several representatives from school districts have also dealt with Mr. Schaap as well and highly recommended him.
All right, good.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. 12.02 PSBA Insurance Trust Trustees. It is recommended that the board vote for up to 3 individuals to vote or to fill the open trustee positions on the PSBA Insurance Trust Board. Trustee term ends December 31st, 2024, and there are 3 individuals for the 3 positions: Richard Frericks, William Lakoff, and Nathan Maines. If I could have a motion. Motion, anybody?
So moved.
Thank you. And second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Roth. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to reports, item 1301, Lehigh Carbon Community College, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Hine. As I said earlier this evening, Dr. Metzen and myself had an opportunity to spend a few hours up at the college, LTRIC, this afternoon. We had a tour from Ann Bieber, the executive director and president of the college. I think it gave Mark a good opportunity to see the scope of what LTRIC is all about up there. And we had an opportunity to stick our heads into a few labs and areas and meet with some of the cabinet members. At a meeting, the strategic plan was also discussed for the 21-24 school year. There is conversation going on about that, and it'll be approved in October. There was a talk about vaccinations. There no conversation is allowed at the campus for COVID vaccinations. They're not allowed to do that. The CARES money that the college has received to date, they're going to have about $10.9 million to spend, which has to be spent by 2023. They're actually going to send a letter to the government asking if they can delay that, extend another year. They've been told they can't send the letter out until February of 2022, asking for an extension of that money. So the cash flow statement, revenue expenses were discussed. We're right on target where we need to be for the year, with about $33 million ending balance. And on expenses and revenue, everything is on target coming in for the year. We'd also discussed the meetings in the committee meetings starting in next year in 2022 are going to be at different sites. So one we'll be touring the Donley site. We'll be touring the airport site, Schnecksville site, and then the Morgan Center. When a roundtable comes, I'll bring another comment up about that for Parkland. And other than that, that completes my report.
Thank you. If you want to continue, Mr. Kennedy, Joint Coordinating Committee, item 1302.
I'm sorry?
Do you have a report for the Joint Coordinating Committee?
No, I didn't go to that. I'll have to get those minutes and report back.
Okay.
I wasn't able to attend that meeting.
Thank you. Item 1303, LCTI, Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you, Mr. Hine. The LCTI JOC met on Wednesday, August 25th. We were mostly in person, but we had some virtual participants as well. The administrative report focused on some of the summer updates. So the criminal justice program was able to expand space for simulators to practice more hands-on skills. The other update was about the digital media program. There's been a lot of interest in that, and that program is at capacity at this point. The emerging health professionals program, they also added space designated for new ambulance simulators. And one of the big highlights was that LCTI instructors worked with South Whitehall Police Department in their youth academy this summer. We also received an update on the 50th anniversary celebration. They have a new logo and a new slogan, which is "Your Future, Our Legacy." They also decided to expand the academic center to include 9th grade. There were about 50 students that were interested, so they now have 2 sections of that. They also have a lot of interest in their co-op program. So this includes full days of learning in the field. In the past, it was only half days. Back to the Academic Center, they're working on a one-to-one initiative. So students who are currently enrolled in LCTI 100% of the time get devices from their home district, and LCTI was having a hard time with the technology and that they can't help those students because the devices are not LCTIs. There are approximately 220 students that they need to buy devices for, and then those students would not get the devices from their home district. So they were working on getting those devices. Moving on, as far as grant approvals, there were no motions. There were 2 proposals for the adult workforce education, one from Just Born and one from Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Contractors of the Lehigh Valley. There was also one from Catasauqua School District, Daniels BMW, and Lehigh Heavy Forge. There were several personnel items and curriculum items. When it came to the committee reports, there were no motions out of personnel and salary and no motions out of business and finance. Facilities had 6 motions, they're listed there. Policies, there were no policies for first and second reading. However, we had 5 policies for review and 5 policies that were retired. The Public Relations Committee met and they gave their branding update. Administrators have had 6 meetings with their marketing group to identify LCTI's vision, mission, and core values. They also discussed open house options for the spring. Education Committee, they discussed apprenticeship positions and gave an academic center update. We also held the PSBA elections. There was a unanimous vote for David Schaap. And then the Occupational Advisory Council, we approved 3 new members. There were no conferences, and then there were several financial related approvals and miscellaneous items, which again are all listed in the report. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Parkland Community Library, Mrs. Roth.
Yes, Mr. Hind. The Community Library Board met last on Thursday, August 26th. We kicked the meeting off. Debbie Jack, our executive director, made a request which came from a lot of the staff at the library, and they asked if board members could start attending a few more library events just because they want to meet all of us. So, and they're anxious to show off the new, how they've expanded and a lot more programs and everything. So, they want to show things off. So we're going to make a concerted effort for all of us to attend more of those in the upcoming months. The 2021-22 holiday schedule for the library was finally determined. They nailed that down, and that's going to be going out in the next newsletter. And we finally chose the landscape architect and plant vendor. So that's going to be Edge of the Woods as the architect, and Parkland Nurseries will provide all the plants for the landscaping around the new expansion building. And that's going to offer us, they're going to use all native plants. And I think I mentioned this before, that's going to offer some educational programming opportunities. And both vendors have said that they will participate in that. So they're taking part in that. And we're going to have several events working around that. As a follow-up to that, Debbie Jack also announced that we received, a grant was approved by the Chamber of Commerce for our community garden. So it'll be nice that we got that at the same time as they're going to be doing landscaping, and we can pair that all together. So you're going to see a lot of events around landscape, plants, growing, everything in the upcoming months. So be on the lookout for that. And that was it for the library.
Thank you very much. Education Foundation, Ms. Fasciano, I understand there is no report.
Correct. I will report out next Tuesday.
Thank you very much. From a legislative perspective, item 13.06. The House and Senate, State House and Senate are coming back into session, the fall session. There are only 19 days for the House and 17 days for the Senate for the fall session, so not even a full month of work for them. There are a few items that have been being tossed around in the off session. Department of Education, State Department of Education has released proposed regulations for charter and cyber charter schools and is seeking public comment. The new regulation is established as a new chapter 713 under Title 22, Part 20 of the PA Code. The proposal will be published in the Saturday, September 18th, 2021 issue of the Pennsylvania Bulletin, so this past weekend. It has been transmitted to the Independent Regulatory Review Commission and the House and Senate Education Committees for review. The 30-day public comment period will be open from September 18th through October 18th, and Pennsylvania School Boards Association is also reviewing the proposal. Other than that, there are not a whole lot of things going on in Harrisburg right now. Moving on to item number 14, approval of accounts payable. If I could have a motion, please.
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Bold. And a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Ziegler. Any comments or questions?
Comment?
Mr. Cohen.
This is Mr. Cohen. My affirmative vote will show no support for our mandatory payments to cyber schools due to their lack of accountability in education and in their financial matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Foos?
I'd like to concur with my colleague that my affirmative vote will not show support for the cyber charters as well for the very reasons Mr. Cohen has stated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 15, public comment on non-agenda items. We do have several this evening. If you could come down to the microphone when I call your name, and please state your name and address. Again, you'll have 3 minutes to give us your comments. First person, Jarrett Coleman.
Good evening. Just a question before I begin. Can I have the time? I just want to ask a question about the statement to the board. As I understand the rules, I have to redact officials from the district. I can't use them by name. Is that correct? I just need to know so I make the proper statement.
I'm not sure.
So instead of saying Nicole Magalia, should I say person A?
No.
Okay, and if I could ask the time be restored, please.
Sure.
Thank you. My name is Jared Coleman. I live at 1410 Buck Hill Lane in Browningsville, Pennsylvania. Good evening. Tonight I would like to speak to you about distrust within the Parkland community. I want to highlight the actions on part of both the school board members and administrators who have been involved in getting CRT in the form of DEI into Parkland. Make no mistake, CRT is here, and if certain people in the district, such as Nicole Magalia and Kelly Rosario, get their way, it will be here to stay. I'm not going to waste my time educating you all on what CRT is, because honestly, you don't belong on the board or in administration if you think CRT belongs in Parkland. But for some reason, some of you continue to deny this. In an email from June 2021, Kelly Rosario, Nicole Magalia, Richard Snizik, and Brenda DeZenzo, they deny that they're teaching CRT in Parkland. The only problem with this is it's just not true. You see, at this point in time, you had already completed almost 30 objectives to your DEI plan. You secured consultants and resources to deliver planned professional development in CRT. You sought budget approval for consultant work. You laid out a plan to racially profile our students, and you began the most disturbing part of your plan by examining social studies and modifying the curriculum to fit your narrative. What is particularly troubling about this is why, in the worst part of the pandemic, were you modifying the social studies curriculum before the English and the literature? Well, it's pretty simple. You can find a history book to teach the history you want, and then you can find the novels to fit its narrative. You have now successfully completed the desecration of American history in Parkland by the recent selection of history books and altered curriculum. Although in another email, the district again deflects this, said the refresh was due to a 6-year refresh. But you see, this is another disturbing trend that parents have become aware of. Everything coming out of the district appears to be written in the lens of a lawyer, almost if it were a red line draft. For example, let's look at how the thought partner Ken Shelton was paid. According to the same email, no one really wants to take the blame, only pass the torch and call his payment professional development. But professional development, really, idea B is for children with disabilities and handicaps, and using the funds for professional development, though you argue doesn't have to be related to disabilities and the disadvantaged, it is wrong. You may argue it is legal, but it's wrong. So while we're on the topic of professional development, I think it's important for us to know why it is important for Parkland to pay Ken Shelton $15,000 for professional development. Quite a lot has snowballed from this professional development. But you see, it's all part of the plan. First you brainwash the teachers, and then you brainwash the children. In fact, the professor that in Parkland offered in-service credits to is Jessica Shocker, a self-proclaimed teacher of CRT at Penn State Berks. Parkland estimates only 3 teachers made it to her initial indoctrination, but since the DEI plan has now moved forward, we are seeing more consultants hired and deserve to know what they are teaching and who is in attendance. I could go on and talk to you about how the district is bungling the rollout of CRT, but I really don't think any of you really care. It doesn't matter that Parkland posted a list of suggested read-in works, including Ibram X and other radicals. It doesn't matter that because you were all promoting this and no one was even vetting the material. In fact, Nicole McGowan and even I have even admits to this. You all have made a mess of this, and I'm assured you will continue to make a mess of this going forward. I can only hope you expose your actions and make you answer for them to the community. I pray to God that parents show up and to vote in the fall to replace the board members.
Please shut off the microphone.
The district.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, please sit down. The next speaker is Ashley Muscarell.
I say my name and the address, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's Ashley Muscarell, and it's 1042 Nest Laurie's Road in Laurie Station. I'm just coming forward today because on September 9th, my daughter, who's sitting right here, she's 11, she was about to get on the school bus, and this driver decided to speed down the road, didn't stop. My mom was yelling, the school bus driver was yelling, honking his horn, flashing the lights. This car didn't stop, and according to the bus driver and my mom, the car was going really fast. Now, my daughter, the way the one that the video showed, and from what she said and my mom, she was about to step in the road. Her foot was in the road, and because she knows to look both ways, she stopped, but the car was literally within inches of hitting her. If she wouldn't have stopped or not been paying attention, that car would have plowed right into her. Now, the reason why I'm here is because my really good friend Amber has knows this program, Bus Patrol, to put cameras on school buses. Now, being that it's Parkland, I automatically assume that, we have the best of everything because it's Parkland. But I found out, was speaking with Andrew Hargrove, that there's only 60 buses out of the 147 we have in the district that have the cameras on the front and back of the stop signs that come out on the bus. And I've learned too that in order to report it to the police, should something ever happen, you need to get the full description of the car, the driver, and all of that. But if you're in the moment, the last thing that you're going to worry about is the vehicle. You just want to make sure that your children are okay. And with this program, it offers free cameras for the district. Allentown School District is already on board with that from this bus patrol program. I can tell you I have another daughter, and if that would have been her, she would have been hit by the car because she doesn't, not all children have quick reaction time. And she's the one that if something abruptly happens, she's going to freeze and she'll stand there. And if that would have been her, she would have been hit. So, as a parent, thank God nothing happened to her, but just knowing the fact that it came within an inch or two of hitting her, I can't even imagine what would have happened. And I just feel as Parkland, we should really get on board with getting the cameras because they will record everything from front to back and at least have them on all the buses. So that's just what I wanted to bring towards your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Miley Muscarell.
Hi, I'm Miley Muscarell, and
If you could speak just a little bit more into the microphone so we can hear you. Thank you.
hi, I'm Miley Muscarell, and I live at 1042 Nest Laurie's Road. And the program that with the cameras on it should be good to help other kids from being hit by cars that just want to be that are speeding past. And
No.
Thank you. I know that wasn't easy.
Thank you.
Very brave to get up. Thank you. Next speaker, Oliver Nasri.
Good evening. Oliver Nasri, 625 Ryan Drive, Allentown, PA, and I have 4 boys in the district. First of all, I just want to say I see Dr. G back there. I'm in my 11th year of having kids in Citronia, and he's doing an excellent job there. And with them just speaking about the speeding cars, I actually wasn't even going to bring this up, but I do believe that they need the blinking, flashing light to slow people down going down Broadway, because people do fly down that road. So the main reason I came up here more is to talk about the sports program. I do coach a lot of sports, and last year football, basketball, a lot of things were canceled, and part of it was due to not having the facilities. And I believe this year we're in the same spot. I know SPA said they secured some gyms already for basketball. So did, I believe, Schnecksville, but South Parkland Youth Association, which actually has 800 kids that play, they canceled last year because they didn't feel they had enough space to get all those kids playing room, and they didn't want to do just the travel kids and not have the other kids play who are in the rec league. So I'm just asking, I know there's a lot of gyms that weren't used over the last couple of years for practices, that I know some of the gyms are being used for extra cafeterias, but I'm just asking that there is gym space, even if you can get an extra custodian to keep the doors open, maybe practice a little bit later, so the kids don't have to skip their youth basketball program this year, because a lot of those kids who also missed a lot of their sports, trying to get them back into sports, they faded out, they put weight on, they don't feel like they can keep up with some of the other kids, so I don't think it's great for a lot of these kids' health. So basically just asking for more gym time. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Hine, if I could just comment on that, we're well aware of the situation and empathize, and we do have a meeting with many youth programs scheduled for next week that Ms. Magala has set up, and she's been very instrumental in communicating with those groups to see what we might be able to do. I know it's a tough situation for you as youth organizations, the parents, the kids, and even for us in terms of those facilities. So we're certainly looking to do anything we can to partner to try to help out.
Next speaker is Christine Arroyo.
Hi, Christina Arroyo, 2763 Stadium Drive. My topic is on masks and vaccines. My son has asthma, and wearing a mask in school so many hours of the day is hard on his breathing. Last year he did the online school to make it easier for his health, but this is the senior year and he would like to graduate with his friends, so he's been doing his best to stick it out. He's already had 4 sick days this year, and I got him COVID tested and he was negative. His problem isn't COVID, it's his lack of breathing with these masks on all day. I know you're going to say, just homeschool him then, but like I said, why should he suffer his last year without all his friends? With that being said, I'd like to bring up a point that the longer we keep wearing these masks and not allowing our immune systems to fight these viruses the way our body was intended to, the longer we are going to keep having lockdowns and keep wearing masks. Everyone keeps saying the CDC, the government, the research, blah, blah, blah. But before COVID, our immune systems fought off many viruses, and yes, some people died from those viruses, but we never went on lockdown or masked up. We had a choice to vaccinate if we wanted to. The key word was a choice. That's what we have white blood cells for, to do its job and fight the infection. My family is my body, my choice. Everyone is entitled to their opinion on the masking and vaccines, but your opinion is not my choice. Right before the pandemic started, and since then, a percentage of people are sure have had COVID and didn't even know it. A lot of the symptoms are like having the flu. By the way, what happened to the flu? If you haven't noticed in the last few weeks at sport events, concerts, etc., there are 60 to 80,000 people in the stadium seats sitting next to each other watching the games and concerts with no masks on. And by the way, your own school games don't wear masks at any of their games, anywhere at or on the field. Why is this okay at games, but our kids have to go all day in the school spaced out, walking up and down one-way hallways with masks on? Why don't you listen to our children? Their voices matter. Stop the mask mandates and make it optional, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Justin Korst. Sorry if I mispronounced your last name.
Hi, I'm Justin Corsa, 945 North 38th Street. I have two kids in the district, 8th grade and 5th grade. And I wanted to basically ask a recommendation from the board is what you would say to a parent like me, and there's many of us out here, with kids that are going to school and are absolutely negatively affected health-wise because of the masks. Both of my kids, I've seen it. I'll talk about my 5th grader. He already has pretty bad seasonal allergies. He's on the, pill a day, the sniffle thing. It's been fine for the last few years. Since school started this year, every week talks about headaches nonstop. Every night from after the time he gets back to school, it's breathing issues nonstop. He goes through a pack of tissue or a box of tissues almost every single night. Tried to change the allergies, tried to change the different things. That's what it is. It's because he's wearing a mask, is what the doctors are saying, for 6 to 7 hours a day for no reason. My job as a parent is to keep my kid healthy, to be an advocate for my son, my children, and I'm supposed to be sending him to school that's a safe place. It's supposed to be the safest place, school. Well, he's healthy. My wife cooks dinner every night. He's active. He's outside playing sports. So literally, for my situation and my family, my son going to school is the least healthy place for him because he's masked all day long, which is absolutely negative for his breathing and his health. And he's already had COVID last year, so he already has the antibodies. So again, my recommendation is, what do you say to parents like me who are sending their kids and seeing negative reactions? And listen, I get it. There's a government mandate. You guys have to do what's best for the school and whatnot. But other schools in the state are taking different approaches. Some of them are saying, well, we will leave the mask option. Some are saying, well, just like restaurants, you walk through a restaurant when the mandate was on, you sit down, you take your mask off. Why do the kids have to wear masks while they're sitting in class already separated from people? I just don't get it. And common sense, guys. When we started the school season, 3-4 weeks ago, we didn't know what it was going to be. Now we see 100,000 people at a Penn State game, 50,000 people at an Eagles game. So my question is, what can you tell a parent like me that's sending my kid that I'm seeing on a day-to-day basis negative health effects? And, just hoping that maybe there is some common sense that we can, have different options, because it's not a one-size-fits-all. So, that's my question. I just, want to see my kids healthy, and it's very upsetting to me knowing that every day, their health is deteriorating because of the masks. So, thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Bill Walker.
Good evening, board members and Mr. Superintendent. Just have a quick question. We are following the Pennsylvania Department of Health's orders at this school district, correct? Just a nod, a head nod will be suffice. If we are, it troubles me that in this very school building today, at recess, children were made to wear masks outside. Section 3, item G2 of the health mandate from the Department of Health, participating in high-intensity aerobic or anaerobic activities, including during physical education class, in a well-vented location and able to maintain a physical distance of 6 feet from all other individuals. They should not be wearing a mask outside, nor at sporting events. We don't force them to wear a mask outside during sporting events. Why are we forcing them to wear a mask at gym class? Child went home today crying to her parents, "I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was suffocating," because she was made to wear a mask outside at gym class. If we're going to go by this mandate by the Department of Health, we need to follow it to the T. And if we're not, then it's no holds barred. We're either going to follow it or we're not. But it's not willy-nilly, I'm going to pick this thing to follow and I'm not going to follow this one. That's not the way this works, not in a democratic society. So please, Mr. Superintendent, I'd like for you to address that issue with your principal in this building and in all other principals in all other buildings. If we're going to follow the mandate, let's follow it correctly. No masks outside. It's not necessary. The CDC says so, and, well, we're following the CDC guidelines as well, so let's follow all of it. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Next speaker is Marcus Smyrda.
Thank you guys for taking the time to hear me. Marcus Smyrda, 2557 Cover Bridge Lane. I really just came here to attend the meeting, and I certainly, first and foremost, just want to thank, I saw my kid's principal here, and I really appreciate the whole school district and my whole experience. My kids are only in 2nd and 3rd grade, and you've knocked it out of the park. I don't want to talk about healthcare. I don't want to talk about health. There's awful a lot of health experts and medical experts that I've come across in the past couple of months or years. And I've been in healthcare 20 years myself. And all I want to know is, of course, clearly, I believe that masks are not healthy for children, especially young children. I don't trust the CDC. I don't trust any center or agency because there's vested interest in both sides. And we've politicized a pandemic, which is embarrassing coming from a medical perspective. But all I want to know is, I want to propose the idea of what is our long-term goal as a school district. I hear wonderful parents on both sides of the story, people concerned about loved ones and protecting them, those are at high risk, and those also feeling that their rights or their freedoms are infringed upon. And I understand the health implications of masking and or not masking. I understand both sides. But what I really want to stress is what's going to happen down the road with psychological development. I'm thankful my kids are only in 2nd and 3rd grade because I already see my daughter, who has speech problems, suffered terribly last year with hybrid schooling. I don't even want to talk about fully online. That was an awful failure. Not for the school district's fault, but just in general. She needs face-to-face. She has massive speech problems. I just want to know, what's our long-term goal? Because COVID's not going anywhere. It's not. It's here. And it's different opinions. Is it taking over the flu? It could be. We need years to figure out, not months, not weeks, years. I just want to know, and I propose it, that we really take a big look at the psychological impact of developing, pre-adolescent, adolescent children, how they're interacting with their peers, how they're interacting with their parents. I just think that I hear all this concern about health, and I'm not even going to talk about cross-contamination. Anyone who touches your mask, you might as well throw it away if you didn't wash your hands before or after. But what are we doing for our kids down the road? That's my concern. And I think you guys have all done a wonderful job. I watched the last school board meeting and it got a little heated, you know, and certainly thank you for all you do. Thank you for listening to our wonderful principals and all of us parents as well. It's just, let's plan for the future, not just for the health, but all for the psychological health. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There were 3 additional submissions tonight that were deemed to be non-residents of the Parkland School District and therefore not eligible to address the board tonight. Moving on to Roundtable, Mr. Bold.
Pass.
Thank you. Mrs. Ziegler.
I just wanted to say thank you to the presenters from Alvin H. Butz and KCBA Architects for their presentations. Thank you also to Mrs. Rosario and any others who worked with her on the comprehensive plan. And I just wanted to commend the student who got up to speak tonight. Thank you for adding your voice to the conversation.
Mrs. Roth.
Yes, thank you very much. That was going to be my lead off, is thank you so much for coming tonight. You guys are very brave. It's hard for even adults. It's hard for some of us sitting up here to talk, but you know what I mean? You guys show a lot of courage, and thank you so much for coming, okay? Hope we see you again. I also wanted to thank Dr. Troutman and Kelly Rosario for the, outline of the comprehensive plan. As always, you know what I mean? We have so much to be proud of for what we've already done, and planning ahead is where it really gets exciting. So thank you so much for that. And that's all I have this evening.
Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, David. Yeah, thank you for coming out and speaking. I think if you guys would like to stay afterwards, I'm sure David Keppel would be happy to talk to you on the bus situation. I don't want to speak for David, but if you have a fear of the mic, that's fine. We all do. I want to thank Kelly and Dr. Troutman for the presentation on the comp plan. And I said earlier that the college is going to move some of their committee meetings around. One of the comments I'd like to make here at Roundtable, and I know we've talked about it before, but with COVID, it becomes a little bit different with the space issues that we have as a board. But I'd like to at least see us move the board meetings around within the district. We've talked about it before. I think there are parents who live down in the Veterans and Jandal area that may want to come to board meetings, but maybe they just can't get out of the house. They have young kids, but maybe they could scoot over to we had a meeting there, go up to Schnecksville, Ironton area, do the same thing. So other than that, nothing else.
Thank you.
I think we should talk about it.
Yep, absolutely. Mrs. Frisbee.
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Miller.
I have nothing.
Ms. Fasciano.
I also want to thank Dr. Troutman and Kelly Rosario for the comprehensive plan. It's so important, and I appreciate that you identified the deficiency in math and what we're going to do to rectify that. So that's really important. Like Mr. Kennedy said, we're even seeing the same issue at El Tri-C, so maybe we can proactively fix that before they get to El Tri-C or any other education facility after here. I just have one thing to say. I just want to thank the Ed Foundation again for providing the funding to Parkland TV Studio, that they're broadcasting the home sports events. What a great opportunity for these students. It's a great experience for them, and it's a great benefit to the community. So I just wanted to thank them.
Thank you. Mr. Foos.
I'd like to request that my remarks be put into the record. President Hein, I would like to take this time to address the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Public education must remain equitable and inclusive. As an individual who is diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, obsessive compulsive disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and anxiety-related disorders, I am who I am today because of my parents, teachers, and paraprofessionals. Every child is entitled to a free and appropriate public education. Education, as such, needs to embrace students of all abilities, gender and sexual identities, as well as diversity. Teachers need to provide a high-quality, student-centered education that takes a multi-tiered approach or scaffolding to provide all students the ability to learn and grow. I personally am grateful that my educators allowed me to be in the least restrictive environment. It provided me the ability to learn how to socialize with my peers. If diversity, equity, and inclusion were not embraced, high school, or education for that matter, would have held a different place in my life. In closing, I would like to quote a song from the hit show Dear Evan Hansen. Even when the dark comes crashing through and you need someone to carry you, you will be found. Our educators do an amazing job at embracing students for who they are and provide meaningful instruction that can provide impacts that can help positively shape the children's lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Foos, and I do believe we do an excellent job of that in this district. While we can always learn and move forward, I think we are making great strides and are already there. Thank you for your comments. Mr. Cohen.
I do want to thank our community members for coming out this evening and sharing their viewpoints, and I'll have no additional comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who has come out tonight, whether you came up to speak or not. Thank you to our students who came up. That's very brave. There are many issues in the district that need to be looked into, and please, on a daily basis, if you see something, whether it's a bus safety or any issue that you feel you need to address, please do call your building principal initially. If it's a transportation, call the transportation department. Please call us and contact us as you see these things happening. That way we can work with you and make this district even better than it is. Thank you to Dr. Troutman and Mrs. Rosario for your review tonight of the comprehensive plan, as well as to our architects and planners for the overview of the expansion at Kratzer. Dr. Madsen?
Thank you, Mr. Hahn. I do have a few comments here, just some general things that I had prepared before the meeting started. And it's been a while since we had an official meeting, but the school year got off to a really great start. Certainly we had some things happen in the beginning of the year, but I know that the teachers, the staff, the students, overall, were so excited to be back, and we really had a great start to the school year. I want to thank all of our parents and our teachers, especially as we started back this school year with everything that's been happening. There's been some up and downs, but certainly, truly a great start. A lot of times I take this opportunity to pull out or recognize one particular group, and I'm gonna just pull out the bus drivers. They're coming back just like everybody else with those full school buses, which is a great sight, but it's also a challenging sight. So I wanna thank all of our school bus drivers for an impeccable start to the school year and keeping all of our students safe every single day. It was nice to see, we got an opportunity as being new in the district to get to some of the athletic events and see fans in the stands and see the athletes out on the field. So it's just a wonderful experience and a great community. And it was really great to be able to see some of those things happening again. And I know that the students and the athletes and the coaches, everybody appreciates the work of the board, but also the community at large coming out to support them in everything that they do. I do just want to mention, I know there was a few comments about the health and safety plan. What's the long-term goal? What are things that we're continuing to look at? We had put out, before the governor's order, our tiered matrix of what we were going to look at for face coverings, without trying to still gather a lot of data. And we said after about 4 weeks, we'd be looking at that again to see, like, where would we be? Because, like one of the gentlemen said, what's the long-term goal? Is this something we would think is going to happen forever? And absolutely not. And so as we look at the data and we see where we're at, as an update to the community, unfortunately, the data is where it's at. And we would still be at the same spot with where our initial recommendation would have been. We know that the Department of Health has overlaid another recommendation that obviously we're adhering to. We understand that maybe there's some other places that aren't. We are adhering to that, and we believe that that is the right course of action. Even without that, we had our own recommendation to the school board, which was approved in our health and safety plan. We're going to continue to look at that data. We actually talk about it as a team. We review it every single day to see where we're at. And no one up here, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I believe nobody wants this to be the long-term solution. So we hope that we're going to get continued information, more information to be able to look at and evaluate in conjunction with our medical experts, because as I've mentioned many times, those are the folks that we have to rely on at this point. And we understand that there are differing opinions. There's different medical opinions from experts. And we're relying on specific groups to really help us make some of these decisions. So we appreciate your feedback, your comments. I do want to commend I know I had a shout out for the bus drivers and the teachers, but I do want to commend our student body as a whole. Almost 10,000 students in this school year. We're still in this pandemic, and they have just been fantastic with everything that we've asked them. And so if you are parents, if you know students, thank them. And we appreciate it. We know how difficult it is where we're at right now. I just want to speak on a few items. A gentleman had come up to talk about health and safety plans, specifically in reference to recess. So certainly the face coverings recommendations and requirement in our district is for inside only. I can't speak for that exact case, but it's certainly something that we will look at and review. But I can tell you that I would say that the first step would be to talk to the building principal, but certainly we'll look at that. But I can tell you that it's not a mandatory piece within our district. I do think that I think I answered the gentleman about the where we're looking longer term, what we're looking to do. I want to also thank our student who spoke and how difficult that was, and you just did an outstanding job. I really appreciate you coming. It's not easy. It's not easy for any of us to speak in public, especially about something so personal that occurred, and I thank you and your family and your friends for being here. And as Mr. Kennedy said, we'll follow up with anything we might be able to do. Thank you. And finally, I know this has been addressed several times, and I just think that it's appropriate at this time to address the comments that were made about CRT. And I'm not sure where some of the misinformation or false narrative has come from. I want to extend an opportunity to Mr. Coleman to please come in and talk. We can go through any questions that you might have. I don't think it's fair to call out only specific administrators with the work that the entire district has done. I speak very highly of Ms. Rosario, Ms. Magala, and all the work that they've done. And I don't think it's fair to single them out at this point. I am more than willing to sit down and talk with you and review this, because I truly have a hard time understanding where some of the information is coming from. So I think we can maybe work together. I think we're on the same team here. We want to make sure that we're operating and moving forward together. Thank you, Mr. Hahn.
Thank you. We will be adjourning tonight for executive session for personnel. If I could have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you. In a second. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And our next school board meeting is 7 p.m. Tuesday, September 28th. And we have board committee meetings on October 11th at 5, 6, and 7 p.m. And the October board meetings, October 19th, workshop at 7, business meeting at 8. And October 26th, the board meeting is at 7. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Have a safe travel home.